A few years ago, I started approaching life through a completely new lens, and since then, it has been so much easier to change my habits, to stick with my goals, to have a better relationship with myself, and to just be a happier person. I started treating things and just life in general as an experiment, basically just approaching things with far more curiosity. And I really believe that approaching life through the lens of curiosity is one of the best things that we can do. It helps us not be so attached to the outcome. It helps us learn and it helps us be calmer people. There is a lighter vibe to it, a calmer vibe to it. And at least for me, it has helped me move through life with less anxiety and stress and just more peace. So today I'm going to walk you through what it means to treat life like an experiment, why it helps, and how you can do it too. Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, my name is Brianna, and around here we chat everything wellness, personal growth, and helping you go from where you are now to where you want to be. So if that is something that you are looking to do, then you should subscribe and stick around. So what does approaching life through experimentation even look like? It's really just being in a mindset of curiosity where you are just collecting data and observing and learning and adjusting along the way. It's not about failure or success or right or wrong. You're just collecting data. Everything you do is giving you some kind of data. And if something didn't go as planned or the way you wanted, instead of spiraling into guilt or frustration, you just notice and then you can ask yourself, I wonder why that happened. What could I maybe do differently for a different outcome in the future? Let's say you're trying to eat healthier, and the typical go-to, or at least what I know I did when I first started trying to eat healthier, was to place rules around it. I'm cutting out sugar, no more fast food, I'm gonna eat so many fruits and vegetables. Then you try to abide by these rules, and there's this sense of rigidity to it. And then let's say you go to a party and you eat a cookie, and then you eat another cookie, and then the next day you eat a bag of chips. And then you feel like you messed up. Maybe you feel guilty, maybe you start judging yourself, maybe you feel the temptation to just give up. But instead of things being so black and white, either, I'm doing this or I'm not doing this, and when I'm not doing it, I feel guilty or I wonder why I just can't stick with it, we can become like little scientists. We can start approaching our thoughts and behaviors with curiosity and experiment with changing our eating habits. Maybe you experiment with eating more fruits and veggies and just see how you feel. Or if you decide to eat healthier and then continuously find yourself reaching for cookies, you get curious. Okay, what's going on here? Am I stressed? Am I not eating enough earlier in the day? Am I trying to abide by rules that feel too restrictive? You're not judging yourself. You're just gathering data, and then based on that data, you can tweak your approach. Maybe you realize that you need to prep some snacks so that healthier options are more convenient for you. Or maybe you realize you're reaching for the cookies to soothe stress, and so you decide to start experimenting with what you can do instead. And see how different that feels? There is just a much lighter vibe to it. And this doesn't just apply to goals and habits, you can apply this to anything in life, but more on that later. So why does this experiment mindset make such a difference? Well, one is there's so much less pressure. You're just seeing how things go. It helps release some of that pressure to do things right, or that you're failing if you don't do things perfectly according to plan or to some kind of arbitrary rules. And less pressure just feels really good. It also helps set the expectation that there will be some trial and error. Most of the time when we approach new habits or goals, we want to just do it right the first time. And while aiming for that is great, and obviously that would be awesome if it happened all the time, expecting perfection or not expecting there to be some kind of learning curve just sets us up for frustration when things don't go as well as we wish they would. Trial and error is part of the process no matter what you're trying to do or change, so we can either get upset about it or we can be like, okay, well, that didn't work out. Maybe I'll try this instead. Life is just giving you data and you can observe with a level of neutrality rather than reacting to it. It also helps take away some judgment. For many of us, our go-to reaction to anything in our life, whether it's falling off track with our goals or something happening with someone, is to make some kind of judgment about it. We make it wrong, we label it as messing up, we judge ourselves for it. But when we're getting curious, instead of getting judgmental, it's helping us get inquisitive. And this can be so huge because when our brain makes a story about something, it tends to just take that and run with it. I'm sure we have all been there. And I think we all know judging ourselves just doesn't really feel good. It can also help us be a whole lot calmer in general because we're not taking things so serious. Like I mentioned earlier, there's just this calmer, lighter vibe to it, so it can help us be less reactive or less anxious. It helps us be more open-minded, which is so helpful for change. And when you view life this way, you start asking more questions and you get more inquisitive. And that alone changes so much because when you do that, you start to learn so much more. You understand yourself so much better and you just gain so much more wisdom. So we can take this mindset and apply it to anything in life. So for example, if you want to change a habit of yours, instead of saying, okay, starting next week, I am going to eat healthier, I'm going to eat more vegetables, and there being this sense of rigidity to it, you can say, okay, over the next month, I'm going to experiment with eating more vegetables. And I'm just going to play around with what vegetables I actually really enjoy eating, with what actually helps me keep up with eating more vegetables, with how I feel. And I'm just going to see what actually works best for me. It is so huge for changing behaviors because you're actually learning and trying things instead of just trying to stick with something perfectly. It also helps so much with changing your habits because you can experiment with different mindsets and approaches and seeing what actually helps you take action and do the thing. You can also bring experimentation into your relationships. Maybe you experiment with communicating a little bit differently and just see how that changes or affects things. You can also bring experimentation into your career or business. For example, I have only been doing YouTube for a few months, but I think part of the reason why I've been able to stay so consistent is because I've treated it like an experiment. So instead of getting so caught up in the likes or how videos are doing or the number of subscribers I'm getting, I'm viewing it as an experiment. I'm just trying different things and seeing how they work. And if something doesn't work super well, I'm not taking it personally. I'm just using that as data to help better inform what I do moving forward. We can also experiment with our mindsets and perspectives. I think sometimes when we hear people talk about more successful mindsets or better mindsets to have, it can be tricky to take them on as our own. But I have found if you see it as you're just trying it on and seeing what happens, makes it so much easier to actually lean into new mindsets and perspectives. Just being like, okay, well, I'm gonna try this on and just see what happens. Whether that's a very in the moment thing, or if it's something where you're like, okay, I'm gonna lean into this mindset for 2 weeks and just see what happens. You can experiment with anything in your life. You can experiment with how you approach life, with what tends to help you feel your best, with what helps you feel so you, with what makes you tend to go into a mental spiral versus what doesn't. There is so much to play around with and just get curious with. I really believe that approaching life through the lens of curiosity is one of the best things that we can do. So get curious, ask questions, collect data, adjust as you need to, and definitely have fun with it. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you are looking to close the gap between where you are now and where you want to be, you should definitely check out this video. Thanks so much for being here. Have a fabulous day, and I will see you in the next one.